Welcome to class tonight. I do hope that you all are doing well and you're having a great night. Now our second standard tonight, or our second standard for TCAP preparation is going to be standard 2, where students will formulate, represent, and use algorithms with positive rational numbers with flexibility, accuracy, and efficiency. Now that is a big fancy way of saying basically you guys can add, subtract, multiply, and divide with positive numbers. Okay, and this includes decimals. This includes finding greatest common factor and the lowest common multiple. So that's what we're going to be working on tonight. So let's just go ahead and jump right in and get started. Now these problems are, and I had to take them from several different pages actually. So we're going to start on page 642. Okay, once again on page 642 in the very back of your book. Let's go ahead and get started with that. Now we have two problems. First of all, we're going to estimate and then solve. Now estimating is very, very easy. All we're going to do is I see a 1, I see a 9, just that's all we do. So my estimation is going to be 1 plus 9 is 10. So that's the sign for estimate. So about 10, and when I go ahead and add these up, 1.14, and then I'll pause right here because this is key. You have to line up the decimal right there. There we go. See, my decimal is lined up. That's very key. So now I can add them. So 4 plus 0 is going to be 4. 3 plus 1 is going to be 4. 9 plus 1 is going to be 10. And I bring my decimal down. So there we go. My first answer is 10 and 44 hundredths. 10 and 44 hundredths. So that is adding decimals. The key is line up the decimal point. Next, number 20, now we're going to subtract decimals. Now estimating, I'll just go and use the first digit once again. So my answer, 5 minus 2, it's going to be around 3. So let's go ahead and solve. So 5 and 45 hundredths minus 2 and 8 tenths. Notice how I went ahead and lined up the decimal. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract. So 5 minus 0 is going to be 5. Oh, I can't do that, so I'm going to have to regroup. So this becomes a 4. This becomes a 14. I subtract, that's going to be 6. That's going to be 2, and I bring down my decimal. So right there, ladies and gentlemen, I just went ahead and subtract the decimals. Once again, the key is line up those decimals. Now, we're going to go ahead and practice some multiplication and then division. Okay, so first of all, multiplication. Now once again, I'm going to estimate, then find the answer. This is always estimation is always a wise thing to do on TCAP. So I'm going to estimate. So 1.8, well, that's pretty close to 2. 4.3, that's pretty close to 4. So 4 times 2 is going to be somewhere around 8. So that's where my answer is most likely going to be. Now, while I know those decimals look scary, it really is not difficult. All you have to do is just try. You have to work. You have to do the work. Okay? That's what we're expecting you to do. So it'll look like this. And I'll go ahead and put the bigger, well, at least the bigger looking number up top. So 4 and 302 thousandths times 1.8, or 1 and 8 tenths. Now, with multiplication, we do not have to line up the decimals. Okay? So now we're just going to multiply. So it's 16. 24, 32, 33, 34, 34, now I'm going to go 4302, remember I have my spacer in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and add, so 6, 3, 4, 6, 7, and I count my decimal places, 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, 3, 4 decimal places, so 1, 2, 3, 4, bam, right there. Remember my estimate was somewhere around 8. Well, 7.6, that's pretty close to 8. So my answer is right there. Now I'm going to go and use a different color for this one. Next one, 23 divided by 25. Now wait a second. The 23 is smaller than 25, so we're going to have to add decimals. So it's going to look like this. 23 inside the box, 25 outside the box. Now I'm going to know I'm going to have to add at least 1 0, possibly 2. So 25 goes into 23 0 times. 25 goes into 230. Well, let's see. 4 times would be 100. 8 times would be 200. Let's try 9 times. So 9 times 25. It's going to be 5, 40 is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 225. 225. I'm going to subtract. That'll be 5 when I regroup. It's 2. And so there we go. I will go ahead and add another 0 and bring that down. Oh, I know this one. I'll pull out my decimal point. Oh, I know this one. 5 goes into 50 2 times. So there we go. My answer is 92 hundredths. 92 hundredths. So that is adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing with decimals. All right. All right, now we're going to go ahead and move into two different things, specifically greatest common factor and least common multiple. We did study this a long time ago, well, we did study it, okay? Even though it may not sound familiar. Now, this is these problems will actually be found on page 644. Once again, page 644. All right, so with greatest common factor, what you're going to do is you're going to list out the two numbers. It's a different color for this one. List them out. What I always do is go 10 and then 30. Make it a little chart like this. All right, so now I'm going to list the factors, greatest common factor. I'm going to list the factors of these numbers. Remember, factors are the numbers when multiplied together, they equal whatever number we have. So, for example, 10. What two numbers multiplied together equal 10? Well, easy. 1 and then 10. Okay, well, is there any other numbers? Let's see, 2. 2 times 5. 2 times 5. Are there any other numbers? 3 times? No. 4 times? No. 5? Oh, and we're already there. So there you go. You have the 4 factors of 10, and I can actually rewrite these if I want to. I don't have to. Just like this. 5 and then 10. Now, let's go ahead and do 30. With 30, my factors are going to be a little more. So I obviously have 1 and 30. I have 2 and 15. Okay? 3 and 10. 4 and, 5 and, 5 and 6. I'll have to actually put these, rewrite these one. Alright, so 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. So there you go. I've listed out my factors of 10 and 30. Now all I do is find the greatest common factor. And hopefully you can see the greatest common factor is going to be, well, 10 and 10. So my GCF equals 10. So the first one, my GCF equals 10. So that's basic. Hopefully this is reminding you of some things. Now let's go ahead and do the second one very quickly. So 15 and then 18. Make my chart. Now 15 should be pretty easy because there's not many numbers. Really, there's only 1, 3, 5, and 15. Okay, those are the only numbers that equal 15. 1 times 15, 3 times 5. And the next one, 18, there's a little more for this. So 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, 4 times, no, 5 times, no. So those are my factors. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 18. Now I'm going to go look for common factors once again. I see 1, that's a common factor. Not the greatest common factor, but a common factor. No 2, there's a 3. Oh, no 5, no 15. Oh, so there we go, ladies and gentlemen. My greatest common factor equals 3 in this case. So that is greatest common factor. Alright, now we're going to switch things to the least common multiple. Now remember, factors are numbers when multiplied together equal a number. Multiples are the answers to multiplication problems. So, for example, on the first one, 4 and 8. So I'm going to do my same chart. Let's list again. 4 and 8. Now my multiples of 4 are going to go like this. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. And so on and so forth. So 4 times 1 is 4, 8, 12, 16, and then 20. I usually go out to about 5 places that I found that has been most helpful. So about 5 places. So now we'll do the same thing for 8. So we have 8, we have 16, we have 24, we have, well, actually, you know what, I can stop right there because, ladies and gentlemen, I have already found my least common multiple. And the least common multiple is going to be 8. It's the smallest common multiple. All right, last one, 6 and 14. little more difficult here, okay, because 14 is not a very common number. So let's go and start with 6. So I have 6 times 1, that's 12. That's going to be 18, 24, excuse me, and then 30. Let's go out to at least 5. All right, now let's do 14. More difficult here, okay? So we have so it's 14. We have 28. Now we get the more difficult ones because 14 times 3 is more difficult. So 14 times 3 is going to be, what is that, 52. Is that right? Yes. 52 and so on and so forth. Now, with these scary numbers, my suggestion is that you just go ahead and multiply those two numbers together. That's going to be the most helpful thing I could suggest. Multiply those two numbers together. So, I will go over here. 6 times 14. That's going to be 6 times 4 is going to be 24. 2, 6, 7, 8. And so 84. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be the least common multiple because we see it's a multiple of 6 and it's a multiple of 6 and it's a multiple of 14. So, ladies and gentlemen, the least common multiple in this case is going to be 84. The very last part of this is dealing with fractions. Now, I know fractions are just your most favoritist thing in the entire world, but it is very important, and we do have to make sure these are down. All right, so the first one, we're going to find each product. It says, let me use red. Product is the answer to the multiplication problem. So here we go. 1/3 of 1/5. Now, remember, multiplication of fractions is actually very, very simple because all we do, the only thing we do, is multiply the numerators together and multiply the denominators together. So I'll write it like this: 1/3 times 1/5. 1 times 1 is going to be 1. 3 times 5 is going to be 15. So my answer, 1/3 of 5, is 1/15. Very, very simple. Now this next one gets a little more complex because I see mixed numbers. So let's go to practice what we're going to do. So we have 6 2/3 times 7 1/5. Now before we can multiply mixed numbers, it's always easiest to make them improper fractions. And we make them improper fractions by doing this. 6 times 3 is going to be 18. 18 plus 2 is going to be 20. So here, 6 2/3 equals 20 thirds times 7 times 5 is going to be 35. 35 plus 1 is going to be 36. Now I'm going to write it over here just for a little more room's sake. 20 thirds times 36 thirds. Now all we're going to do is multiply these together, so it's going to take some work. So 36 times 20, that's 12. That's 3 times, that's 6, 7. So 720 over 9. Now, as is always the case, 720, we need to make sure and simplify it. And to simplify an improper fraction, it's going to look like this. Remember, we divide it out, so it's going to be 80. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. When I multiply 6 thirds times 6 2/3 times 7 1/5, my answer, my final answer, is 80. That's in simplest form. So that is multiplication. Now let's go ahead and practice some division. Now remember, we talked about this. Division is the exact same thing as multiplication, only it's the opposite. So all we're going to be doing, ladies and gentlemen, the only thing we're going to be doing is taking these fractions and we're going to reciprocalize, is the verb I use, or just the word. We're going to make the reciprocal of this. It's going to look like this: 2/3 divided by 2/5. To do this, it's going to do thirds times 5 halves. Remember, we just reciprocalize and then solve. 2 times 5 is going to be 10. 3 times 2 is going to be 6. We simplify that, and the answer is going to be, so we divide that out, it's going to be 1 and 2/3. 1 and 2/3. Okay? Alright, and the next one, divide, so now we have mixed numbers we're going to be dividing. Okay, see these mixed numbers? So let's write it out again. 4 and 1/2 divided by 3 and 1/3. Now, you're going to do the exact same thing with multiplication and make these improper fractions. So it's going to be 9/2 divided by 10/3. Now we're going to reciprocalize this right here. So it's going to look like 9/2 times 3/10. And then we simply solve 27/20. We cannot reduce that, so ladies and gentlemen, that is in simplest form. So that is multiplying and then dividing fractions. Now, we're on to our very, very last thing, solving an equation using a fraction. Now with this, a over 3 equals 9. Now hopefully you remember, to get a by itself, all I have to do is do the opposite. So in this case I have division, so I'm going to multiply by a. That's going to cross those a out, or sorry, oops. If I want to get a by itself, I'm going to have to multiply by 3. So I multiply both sides by 3, and so those 3's cancel out, so it'll be a equals 9 times 3, which is 27. So there we go. I just solved for a right there. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, good work. I know this is a lot, but if you have this video down, I am sure you will do very, very well. As is always the case with these, I need to see your notes in class tomorrow. Make sure you bring your notes to class tomorrow to prove to me you watched this, and then I'll give you some work and we'll work on this. Alright, have a great night. Make sure you study for TCAP very hard and get a great night's sleep. Thank you.